All right, today we're guessing what shows Marvel rival characters would watch if they lived in our world and had access to Netflix. Now, before we get started, no, I did not dig through obscure comics for references like, oh, but in Iron Man 373, he says he loves kitchen nightmares.
Fuck off, you fat, useless sack of fucking Yankee danky doodle shite. Fuck off, will you please, yeah?
I don't care. This is not a comic accurate ranking. Well, what are the parameters based off of? How are you guessing these? And that's a good question. And honestly, I don't have an answer. I'm going off of vibes and what my boiled peanut brain could come up with. So, with that out of the way, let's find out how these heroes are spending their nights. Blade. So, I've got two answers for Blade. There's a serious answer and then a non so serious answer. So for the first one, I've got supernatural. You know, going around, saving people, hunting things,
family business,
fighting monsters all over the country. I think that fits Blade pretty good as the day walking slayer that he is. But the other way that I could see Blade going is him watching any harem anime. Something about Blade just gives me like that vibe about him watching a harem.
My sword's getting sticky. A brother could get used to a place like this.
Wolverine gotta be Sons of Anarchy. He's an older, morally gray, gruff dude that likes motorcycles. I've never met someone of that description that doesn't watch Sons of Anarchy. So I think that's the best fit for Wolvie. Black Panther. He's all about, the Black Pride. So I would say anything on the BET channel, but if I had to pick a specific show, it would probably be Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. I really think he'd jive with the comedy on that one.
I know she embarrassed you. She only had one arm, and when you would go to concerts, she clapped like this.
I could also, though, see him enjoying the social commentary of Boondocks.
Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., you get out of that room and continue to fight for freedom and justice this instant.
For Human Torch, I have him watching Jackass or Wipeout. They're both physical comedies that just seems like Human Torch would enjoy. He kind of gives me bro-y vibes, and that fits with Jackass. And he also seems like the kind of guy that would find it hilarious when people eat shit.
All that's left to do now is spring himself into the wipeout zone. Oh, right in the joystick.
Iron Man has got to be How I Met Your Mother. He definitely considers himself to be Barney, the main character of the show. And yeah, he probably is, to give him some credit. There are too many similarities between the two of these. They're both cocky, flashy, rich. They both think they're God's gift to humanity. They both rizz up the huzz like it's a full-time job.
That's tough. They got you locked up for life, my boy. The hell wrong with you? Hey!
But underneath the ego, they actually care about those close to them. They're sweethearts underneath. Venom, I think watches Fear Factor. I could see him enjoying a couple different shows. So Fear Factor, I could see him rooting for anything but the people, right? He would root for the bugs,
Gross.
the snakes,
Nasty.
the critters,
Ew.
that kind of vibe, But I could also see him watching Attack on Titan. Come on, it's a show about giant monsters that eat people. That's got Venom written all over it. Psylocke. So Psylocke, for some reason in my head, enjoys things of spooky nature. She enjoys like horror as a genre. And I don't know why that connection's made in my head. I don't know anything about Psylocke. Something about her, though. I can just see her watching little spooky stuff. So for her, I've got American Horror Story. I think she would be an enjoyer of that show for some reason. But maybe there is a more perfect fit. Let me know if you can think of anything else for Psylocke. I didn't just want to say, some anime for her. So, American Horror Story it is. For Groot, I have Bob Ross, Joy of Painting.
Happy accidents.
I can picture Groot watching Bob Ross paint for hours, not wanting to leave the TV when people tell him, hey, you need to load up in the Milano. We got shit to do. Hela. I think Hela is, I don't think anybody would disagree. She's a Game of Thrones gal. I think this one kind of speaks for itself. This crazy broad is all about, you know, power struggles, backstabbing, ruling through fear, family drama, blood-soaked politics. There's also plenty of violence, and that is kind of right up Hela's alley. Thor watches The Simpsons. I don't think he gets a single one of the jokes, but he watches it for the plot. All right, we all knew this one was coming. We got Rocket Raccoon. Drum roll, what do you think Rocket's going to be? That's right, Coco Melon. No, I'm just kidding. It's Rick and Morty, duh. He would definitely be a Rick and Morty fan, and he would definitely be one of the fans who raised hell about Szechuan sauce. He would come up with all these schemes, thinking about how to get more, hitting licks on McDonald's to get this Szechuan sauce. And also, he thinks he's a smarter Rick Sanchez, and he probably considers Star-Lord to be Jerry. Black Widow, I've got watching Severance. And I don't think that she would sever. I think that she would be anti-severing, but she could understand people who would sever. And then for Phoenix, I've also got Severance, but I think Phoenix would sever. I can't really explain it, but that's how it is in my head, so I'm sticking with it. Adam Warlock probably watches South Park, calling it something along the lines of vulgar divinity or peak comedy, and anybody who doesn't understand it can't understand it, you know, that kind of vibe. Storm. I am embarrassed to admit how long it took me to try to find a pairing for Storm. I have been working on these pairings for days, and I could not for the life of me think of one for Storm. Only for it to hit me like a ton of bricks, like a freight truck, right? Obviously, it's Avatar: The Last Airbender. I don't know how I didn't think of that before. She would definitely vibe with Mastery of the Elements. 'Cause I didn't want to just do like some cop-out. I didn't want her watching like National Geographic or the Weather Channel or some stupid crap like that, you know? I think she would definitely enjoy Avatar: The Last Airbender, though. Cloak and Dagger. So I've got Cloak watching Dexter. You know, like the morality and the dark vibe that Dexter gives off. On the surface, you know, Dexter seems like a bad guy, but at the end of the day, he's doing work that helps people. He's a serial killer that kills serial killers. So I don't know much about Cloak, but I feel like most people would say powers of darkness equals bad, but Cloak's a good guy. So Dexter, I feel like, is a good fit for him. Now for Dagger, I've got Sailor Moon. I know nothing about Dagger. I know nothing about Sailor Moon, but she just gives off a Sailor Moon vibe to me. For Luna Snow, I could see her enjoying shows like America's Got Talent. I think there's another, not So You Think You Can Dance. There's another one I'm trying to think of. I can't picture it right now. But any of the singing shows I think Luna would enjoy. And she definitely, while she's watching them, she talks out loud as if she was on the judge panel. But she's always way too positive and lax with the contestants, so she would just give passes to the most vocally cooked singers to ever cross the stage. Jeff the Land Shark watches SpongeBob SquarePants. Emma Frost, I've got Pretty Little Liars or Gossip Girl. She's all about the drama and the fashion. She would punk every single woman, but she loves the hell out of those shows. For Doctor Strange, I've got Doctor Who. I picked this one simply because they're both essentially masters of time. I think you would get a kick out of all the timey-wimey shenanigans of the Doctor Who world. But, you know, at the end of the day, he's kind of stuck there. I think the Doctor... I think Strange would think the Doctor's irresponsible for messing around with time, saying all manner of corny stuff like, oh, one shouldn't meddle with time, like he's narrating a prophecy or something. Ultron, I can see watching Black Mirror. It's a show about technology reaching nightmare status to humanity, and that seems pretty on point for Ultron. Spider-Man. Spider-Man is a quippy little comedian character that works with cops. So my pick for him is actually Brooklyn Nine-Nine. It's literally a quippy comedy show about cops, and that is right up the Spider's alley. I can't really think of a better fit for him.
Santiago is running perimeter control. Peralta, you're in charge of the manhunt for the shooter.
Oh my God, it's a manhunt. And I'm the manhunter. And I'm your sidekick, the boy hunter.
Come on.
The Thing. I'm pretty sure Thing would watch Seinfeld. He's an old head, and he thinks Seinfeld is peak comedy. Nobody else that I have ever met in my life thinks Seinfeld is funny, but he's kind of like that old head humor, you know? The Thing would probably be perfect for that. For Mantis, I think Mantis would enjoy Impractical Jokers. She would laugh obscenely hard at really anything that happens on the show. Yeah, that's about it for Mantis. For Scarlet Witch, I've got Stranger Things. I think that kind of follows her theme of childhood trauma. So I think she would enjoy Stranger Things, kind of a darker vibe. I could also see an argument for 13 Reasons Why, also with the childhood traumatics. Maybe I'm off on these, but Scarlet just gives off sad girl
They ask you
vibes
how
to
you are,
me.
you just have to say that you're fine when you're not really fine. But you just
Mr. Fantastic watches the show How It's Made. Now, he's a scientist. He likes that kind of stuff. He probably knows how everything is made on there already, but he watches it anyway. He probably does think he could do a better job at explaining things, and he probably rants about it to Sue Storm. For Moon Knight, I tried so hard to think of some show that revolves around the moon or anything even remotely close to that, and I couldn't think of anything. So I looked it up, and the only ones are obscure, random, documentaries or weird shows that nobody's heard of. So I decided to go with Peaky Blinders for Moon Knight. Something about the violence, men in suits, crime, cigarettes. You know, I think Moon Knight would be down for all of that. So if there might be a better pick for this one too, I cannot for the life of me think of it. Star-Lord, I think, watches American Ninja Warrior. He most certainly thinks he can do all the courses, but for sure cannot probably complete a single one. Iron Fist, American Ninja Warrior. Iron Fist thinks he can do all the courses, but unlike Star-Lord, he actually can. Magneto's got a dirty little secret, all right? Magneto watches Modern Family, which is a great show. However, he does not let anybody know this. He will tell you he does not watch television, but it is a guilty pleasure of his, let me tell you. Invisible Woman is for sure a watcher of Love Island. She is the target audience for that show. She won't stop talking about it to the rest of the Fantastic Four, and they could not give any less of a fuck about it. She's out here making TikToks about all the drama, and she is way too invested in these people's lives. That's just average of a Love Island enjoyer, though. All right, Namor, bro. I have the perfect show for Namor. The show You on Netflix. Namor relating way too hard to the main character of that show's But I Love Her obsession. This man has been rejected by Sue Storm, and that is, to me, that's his whole personality. I don't see Namor having a personality other than being rejected by Sue Storm, and I think You is a perfect fit for that. Squirrel Girl, I think she watches Friends, and she can't talk to anyone without bringing it up. I think she's an incredibly annoying Friends show enjoyer, and she probably writes emails to NBC executives begging for a reboot. Punisher. So I've got Punisher watching Narcos. You know, guns, cartels, violent justice, Buddy's glued to the screen, and he's not getting up anytime soon. Penny Parker, I think, would watch BattleBots. I can't really think of a more perfect fit for Penny. This is kind of right up her alley. You got people making robots fight. She is a person that makes robots fight. So I think she would be down to watch that. It's like a small scale version of what she does, but there's really no danger involved. Okay, so I've got a few for Angela. Angela, I think the most obvious pick would be Vikings, the show about Vikings. I think that's obviously, that obviously fits. Brutal battles, axes. She'd feel right at home watching Vikings. However, I think of a couple others too. Berserk, the anime Berserk. It's a dark, bloody warrior's tale. That's literally Angela's bedroom story, bro. Also, Baki. That show, it's an anime too, with all the, the super, weird art style with all the muscles and stuff. Just fighting. I think Angela would be such a big fan of that as well. For Hawkeye, I picked Samurai Jack. I can't think of any straight up, hardcore archery shows, but Hawkeye's got the whole Ronin thing going on, so I think Samurai Jack's a pretty decent pick. Another good one for Hawkeye might also be Naruto. I could definitely see him not only watching Naruto, but also practicing all the hand signs when nobody's looking. Heavy weeb activities from our boy for sure. Winter Soldier, I've got a simple one. It's The Boys. He just seems like a guy who would watch The Boys, does he not? Am I wrong on that? Captain America, I've got MASH. Most of you probably have no clue what that is. If you're under the age of 25, you've probably never heard of it. I think Cap would feel like he relates to the vibes that the show gives off, you know? Kind of old school military comedy. Captain America would be lapping that up like a dog out of a bowl. Magic. All right, something about Magic tells me that she would enjoy watching Shameless. Maybe, and I don't know, I can just picture Magic being a character on Shameless, sitting on a porch on the South Side, drinking 40s and smoking squares all day. I don't know if there's really any other reason, but yeah, Shameless for Magic. Loki, I think he's a Breaking Bad enjoyer. He would enjoy kind of Walter's moral descent into drug lord, and he'd be down for all that. All right, the Incredible Hulk. I think the Hulk watches WWE. That seems like a perfect fit for Hulk. Now, his favorite moves, I think, are John Cena's attitude adjustment, the Batista bomb, and the Great Khali chest slap. Really, anything that you have to put your arms above your head to inflict pain on somebody else, I could definitely see Hulk really vibing with that and laughing whenever somebody goes down hard. Now, if we're talking Bruce Banner, I could also see him getting down with the Lego Masters show. Just people building things out of Legos. For some reason, I don't know, Bruce is kind of nerdy, probably loves Legos. And then I actually had another one. If we're considering Hulk and Banner as one entity instead of two separate watchers, right? I think JoJo's Bizarre Adventure is perfect. Hulk is basically Bruce Banner's stand, and I can just imagine Bruce Banner de-posing and being like, "Once more, the world!" Yeah, so that's the list. There might be a couple reaches in there, but I think it makes sense overall. I didn't have any footage from Daredevil when I made this video, but for some reason, I don't see him watching much of anything. If you think you have a better fit for anybody, be sure to let me know down in the comments. Let's keep the discussion going. If you enjoyed this video and want to see more, hit the subscribe button before you go. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one.